Good afternoon, sir. If you would identify yourself for the official record, and your 5 minutes will begin.
Okay, thanks. My name's James Rilett. I'm Vice President Central Canada with Restaurants Canada. Restaurants Canada represents food service operators across Ontario and Canada. This industry is the fourth largest private sector employer in Ontario. It employs 472,000 Ontarians who serve 7.5 million customers every day. We're the #1 first job provider in the province. We open the door to young people, to new Canadians, and to those facing barriers in employment. I have provided a submission, but I want to start with a couple questions. How many of you ever had to confirm there's enough money in your account to pay your employees? How many of you have had to borrow money to pay your employees? These are questions that restaurant and food service businesses are asking themselves. Bill 148 will have a profound effect on our industry. It's not rhetoric, that's not hysteria, it's a fact. It's unfortunate that some have chosen to characterize this as predicting doom and gloom. Those comments are illustrative of the rhetoric that has surrounded this issue. The fact that is our industry is a people industry. It's not the name on the sign, it's the people behind the doors. Owners and operators are representative of the face of the country. Much has been made of the fact that the industry employs lots of new Canadians, women, and minorities. This is true, but is only half the story. These groups also make up a large percent of the owners and operators in the industry. People who came to this country with no money and a dream, and who are now employers. People who started out as dishwashers and are now own companies. They are a valuable part of your community. This is a noble profession. Restaurants are proud of the role they play in society. They are equally proud that they can give people new to the job market the opportunity to get that much needed experience and training. And now, 98% of restaurant operators surveyed are concerned about the negative impacts of this bill. While it is easy to brush aside these concerns as doom and gloom, I would like to put it into perspective for you. If you were told that your mortgage payments were going up 20% and then 30% over the next year, what would your response be? Would you be focusing on all of your expenses? Would you be afraid of losing your home and life savings? That is the frustration you have heard from food service operators. They have said, we are willing to increase wages, but we need time to restructure our business. Even economists who are supportive of the government's plan talk about increased employee productivity and innovation. These terms are economists speak for fewer employees, which is exactly what our operators are saying. In this year's budget, the government stated our priority is all about jobs created by thriving businesses. Somewhere between then and now, has the government forgotten that commitment? We're just asking the government for time and a recognition that there will be significant negative impacts. The facts are clear. The average profit margin in our industry is 3.4%. Additional costs due to Bill 184 will increase expenses by 5 to 7%. Restaurants cannot stay in business by losing money. The food service industry is very labor intensive. Approximately 30% of costs are labor. In a mere 6 months, our industry must prepare for $1.3 billion in cost increases. A year later, this will go up to $1.8 billion. In the restaurant industry, 65% of minimum wage earners are youth. They are looking to gain job experience, work skills, and extra income, and provide valuable work experience that will serve them well in the future. I'm sure many of you learned these lessons in restaurants. These opportunities will be put at risk. This is what we recommend. Implement a reasonable time frame for future increase. Depoliticize this issue by putting in place a proper study of the minimum wage effects, including any positive or negative effects. Ensure wage incentives such as differentials recognize the benefit of youth employment and the fact that some employees receive significant top-up tip income. The bottom line is we need the government to truly consider the effect of this legislation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The first round of questioning will go to the official opposition. MPP Barrett.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. My colleague has several questions, and I just wanted to kick off. I represent an area highly dependent on tourism, seasonal, hospitality industry, the restaurant trade, and again, just in warm weather primarily. Received an email from one restaurant owner. I know the facility quite well, and he was explaining to me that the way they see it in the environment down our way, the minimum wage jobs are not meant to fully support a family. It's a bolster household income, start youth on the right track to gainful employment, supplement retirement income perhaps, and he's in a position now where he will be discontinuing his support and supporting and training young people for a brighter future. So we're losing that stepping stone. I just wanted to make that point. If you wanted to comment briefly, I know.
That's a common comment in our industry, and that's what we saw in Seattle as well. As people weren't hiring the people that needed the jobs most, the people that are entry jobs. That what they're doing is hiring people at the higher wages and saying we only want experienced people. Only experienced people need apply. So that's what we're seeing in other jurisdictions, including New York.
Okay,
MPP Harris?
Yes, thank you, James, for coming and presenting today. Were you a part of the workplace review submission? Did you speak with the workplace review committee, I guess?
We did. We provided submissions both initially and to the response to the interim.
At any time, was there a discussion or an opportunity to submit feedback with regards to the proposed minimum wage increase?
No, in fact, we actually tried to talk about it on occasions because we knew that a lot of the other side was doing that. We were told specifically we couldn't talk about it, not just by the CWR panel, but also by politicians. We tried to talk to the minister about it. We tried to talk to other cabinet ministers about it. We were told that it wasn't on the table. And as late as March, the premier was commenting that it wasn't on the table. So we saw no reason to consider that it was being considered.
You know, I remember reading back in the CBC Premier's comments about the fact that we need to depoliticize minimum wage increases, that we had a predictable path for wage increases, which frankly all three parties have supported in the past as of recent. That is until obviously the bill was tabled, Bill 148, that I think surprised a lot of folks, perhaps even including her own minister. Can you tell me why you think she said one thing in January about this, and then now in the tabling of the bill? Why
don't think
it's
any
change of heart?
I don't think it's any secret. It's a political decision. They looked at the polls. They decided that they need to do something to move voters. The only thing that changed between when she said they're not considering it and when they announced it was the fact that they were down in the polls. I hate to be that crude, and I hate to put it that way, but most of the people you talk to that are in the political arena will admit that that was the reason behind it.
We'll see if it works, I guess, next June.
Yes.
Tell me, I know that we've had an opportunity to speak to different restaurant owners right across the province that have significant concerns. I spoke to one that said, you know what, the folks that will be working in our restaurant will in fact be earning more than the owners themselves when this comes to fruition. I guess, any recommendations specifically for the committee on the rollout or implementation of, you know, this large input cost? I believe you do have some specific recommendation. I don't know if you want to share that with the committee at this time.
Well, we'll work with the government on mitigation. We do think the best thing that they could do is to extend the time frame. I know a lot of people have said that that's not possible, but every other jurisdiction has had a longer time frame. Every other jurisdiction has recognized the need to restructure businesses. So that, more than anything else, extending that timeline to 5 or 6 years like other jurisdictions have done is paramount. What
was the response to the government after the bill was tabled to your sector on why the increase to minimum wage was put in? I'm sure you've had conversations with the ministry officials. Have they given any reason why it was included after the fact to you publicly?
No, they just said the same things that you're hearing before the committee.
Has the government committed to your sector or industry or association with regards to any potential incentives, help, in the form of any measure that would help mitigate this?
Minister Leo has reached out to us.
Thank you. We'll move to the third party. MPP Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, James, for being with us today. I was a server once upon a time. And at a part in my time when I was in the industry, the no smoking came into effect, and restaurateurs at that time thought the doors are closing, we're never going to survive. And yet we see businesses thriving today. So, I mean, yes, it will take time to get there, and it is going to be some humps and some hurdles to get over. But quite frankly, people who are working in the industry can't afford to spend money in the industry at the same time. If they can't have a living wage or a minimum wage that takes them somewhat out of poverty, and this is still going to leave them into poverty by the time it's enacted, people will still be again below the poverty line. So by putting more money into people's pockets is going to be actually putting more money into your businesses, into the industry, because they're going to have that little bit more to spend. People can't afford to take their families, many people can't afford to take their families to restaurants, you know, with a lot of kids right now. And so hopefully they'll have a little bit more. I see you looking at me like,
No, no,
well, yeah, they can.
I'm waiting for a question as well.
Well, no, but I just want to be on record of saying that I understand the industry quite well, and that the sky was falling years ago when we said there was going to be no more, when the government at the time said there was going to be no smoking, but they survived. They survived, they overcame, they find different ways of doing things. Do you have a thought of what the government could do to offset those costs for you? Is it tax incentives? What is it that the government can do to help industries, to help small business, you know, make sure that they keep their doors open through these changes?
Well, we're just getting into that now, and as I was saying, Minister Leo has reached out and Minister Duguid has reached out, so we recognize that the government is trying to work with us, and we applaud that. But to your point about the smoking, two things were done in that. One, it was phased in, and secondly, it was done the same across the province. So the government did realize that. So what restaurateurs were afraid of at the time was that people would say, well, I can't smoke here in this community, so I'll just go to the next community. That was the concern at the time. And I don't think anybody
Sky
thought...
was falling.
Well,
Right.
that type of rhetoric I don't think helps the conversation. People are saying, we're concerned. And simply saying, well, the sky is falling, belittles the fact that people are worried. They're worried about a business that they've spent their life creating. They're worried that of the money that they've put in through their entire life is being put at risk. I don't think you should belittle that thought. And well, belittle's probably too strong, but
Yeah.
but by saying, you're saying the sky is falling, you're saying, well, you don't have anything to worry about. They do have something to worry about. They worry about their livelihood.
MPP Miller.
If I owned a small variety store, for example, and that would probably be some of the people you represent, and it would, well, whoever. If I owned a small variety store, for example, they were concerned about going out of business or losing and having to lay people off and all that. If I had 1,000 items in that variety store, and I was to raise that 5 cents on each item, which is not a lot of money, and people don't even notice those types of raises. In fact, you don't even get change back with nickels anymore. But anyways, 5 cents, that's $5,000 a month. And the entire cost of 2 employees at an addition of $2 or $3 might be $250 a week on a 40-hour week. So let's say they spend $1,000 or $2,000 in wages for that month in the increase of the $2 on those 2 employees. And they've still got an $8,000 cushion. So I'm finding it a little hard to believe that that's going to put them under. What do you answer? How do you answer that?
Well, I don't represent the convenience store industry, so I can't answer that. But what I'm saying is, currently, the restaurants will have to either raise their prices by 5 to 7%. They'll have to, or cut hours to meet approximately 3,000 hours a year for the average restaurant. So that comes out of the system. People in the industry are very price sensitive. I think you all see the headlines. Whenever a cup of coffee goes up a nickel, it makes front page headlines.
We'll move now to the government. MPP Cole.
Yeah, oh, hi, Jamie. Just
Hi.
quickly, and I'm going to pass it over to the member from Trinity Spadina, who has the most restaurants of any member in the province here. So I'm going to ask him to in a minute. Just, and I appreciate really this is something that is very helpful. It really is a good graphic, and it's not too wordy. So thanks for the presentation. And we have heard the seriousness of this. Over the last number of days, there have been a lot of very passionate people that have come forward and explained the impact of these changes. So I don't think any member here underestimates that. And I come to the defense of my colleague from Hamilton Mountain, and she doesn't either, because the sky is falling rhetoric has not come from us. It's come from the presenters who said they're going to shut their doors, they're going to fire people. So I just want to say it's not coming from us because we're hearing it. But not from everybody, but I'm just saying there's enough of that. And I was just saying the member from Hamilton Mountain raised a good point. I remember the dire predictions when smoking was going to end in bars. They were dire. I sat through the meetings. I couldn't believe the predictions. And, you know, lo and behold, I know I'm now back in bars eating and drinking because I couldn't go anymore because of the smoke. And now I bring my grandkids to a bar. I never would have thought of that. So anyways, I just want to say we've survived the no smoking, and I think flourished because restaurants are... the one question I had, what percentage of restaurants open and close? You know, we hear everybody wants to open up a restaurant. They all think it's easy. You know, ex-hockey players open up a restaurant, whatever. What percentage open and close? You know,
Stats Canada has trouble tracking those because it would require going through business licenses for municipalities. So we've never got a really good number. It is fairly fairly common statement that it has the highest turnover of any industry, and I don't see any reason not to believe that, but I don't have an actual number on business closures.
okay, and I'll pass it over to a member from Trinity Spadina.
MPP Daw.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, MPP Coley. Yeah, Jamie, I remember the days that we worked together. I echo what MPP Cole said about if you look back to the history, you know, 2003 we had SARS. Hospitality industry was hit hard, and we continue to invest through all three levels of government, invest in culture, or perhaps not so much from the federal government after 2006, but culture and tourism, and they came back. You know, in 2008, we had a recession. You know, it was a big hit on the restaurants. You know, in my riding, Liberty Village, West Queen West, Entertainment District, you name it, and they all felt it. But we made a decision as a government, and at the time the Conservative went against it, you remember that, to invest in infrastructure and to make sure the jobs are protected in Ontario. So I think it's the same spirit here. The restaurants, most of them, you know, in my riding at least, are considered as small businesses, and they represent a quarter of business that hiring are paying below $15 an hour. But so I want to make sure that you feel that we're not targeting the small businesses. With that, I want to ask you two things. One is, are you supportive of a livable wage? You know, and we look at $15 by 2019. Secondly, any recommendation to this committee, to the government, what we can do to offset some of these costs? Any innovative suggestions on that front?
Again, we will discuss that with Minister Leo, Minister Duguid. We look forward to working on that. I don't have any offhand. We've put it out to our members to give us suggestions to bring forward. You know, you did mention some areas. I don't think you intentionally compared this to SARS, but I get your point. Business does recover, but you do see a lot of change. And all we're saying is you have to understand that people aren't claiming the worst. They're worried for their business. And in the instances you cite, there were closures. There was a time that they had to adjust. And if you're okay with seeing the local coffee shop that's been open 40 years closing, then that's fine. But that's what you will see. There have to be people that will close. And
Well, my
I
point
just,
was
I
that-
just need, and sorry, to your point, it isn't.
Thank you.
70, sorry.
Thank you. The deadline to send in a further written submission to the clerk of the committee is 5:30 on Friday, July the 21st. Thank you, sir.